So, hello and welcome to Gen X Considers. I'm Nadine, your resident Gen Xer, and I'm happy to welcome Don DeKisto from the Don DeKisto Potential Juror YouTube channel, joining me tonight for my first live stream. Thank you so much, Don.
Oh, thank you for inviting me and thank you for reintroducing me to Betty Broderick because I have had so much fun this week. I know you're not supposed to have fun watching a murder trial, but I did. And she is really a character. And honestly, I'm not going to lie, I kind of fell in love with Betty. I kind of
What?
did.
Well, we're going to have a great discussion because,
She's a,
wow.
di- I mean, of course, I don't condone what she did, but she's really something else.
Well,
I had forgotten. I was in my late 20s, I believe, when this all happened. I was living nearby
mhm.
in the San Diego area, and I kind of forgot about this whole thing until you
Mhm.
brought it back up. And I kind of did see things, on and off. But yeah, thank you for having me. This is going to be a really interesting conversation.
Right. Well, thanks again for being here because it was just going to be me talking into the ether because I just had a lot to say. And, Betty passed away recently in prison on May 8th. She'd served, I think, 36 years in prison. And that brought the case back into the true crime lexicon, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been seeing a lot of videos pop up talking about the case and reading comments, and it just reminded me how differently many people still remember this case compared to the actual evidence that came out at her trial.
Mm.
Um, a lot of people like you saying, "Hey, I don't condone what she did, but."
Well,
But
well, she was just super entertaining to watch.
she was,
Yeah.
and people, friends of hers, even her children,
Mm-hmm.
love her and say she
Mm-hmm.
was a great person to be around. Aside from this, husband leaving
Right.
her situation,
Right.
she was a person people like to be around.
Right. Right.
Charismatic and stuff like that. So
Right.
tonight, I wanted to, start a conversation to take a closer look at the case again,
Mm-hmm.
because it is one of the most debated true crime cases of the last several decades. And it's one of the first true crime cases I remember living through. I was like 12 going on 13 when this
Mm-hmm.
happened, and the
Mm-hmm.
Menendez brothers happened like less than a month just before
Right.
this. And
Right.
I remember both of those news stories breaking and everything that came after that in the years to follow. So tonight, rather than start like with the opening statements at the trial, I just wanted to kind of look at the actual evidence that came out and question why people still defend her in the face of
Okay.
all that.
Right.
So by the point that they're doing the closing argument and the rebuttal arguments, the jury has heard all the witnesses and the evidence, and they've heard the defense, they've heard the state. So I think that is a great place to start instead of starting at the with the opening.
That's
um,
right. That sounds
yeah.
like a great idea.
So, as we listen to that, as we chit chat, we're going to be looking at not just what they were arguing against her, but what evidence actually supported it, right? What the witnesses had to say, even her children, her two daughters testified for the state, and they were very different because I think Lee, I don't know if you saw any of her testimony, but she seemed to be backpedaling a little bit to
Mm-hmm.
try to help her mom.
Right.
Whereas Kim, the older one, seemed a little bit more forthcoming in terms of, saying, hey, my dad was definitely not the one harassing my mom. It was definitely the other way around. So Betty's defense didn't get any support from either of them, really. Um, but yeah, she was definitely trying to say that Dan and Linda were harassing her and that there was no evidence presented of that at all. So that's what I want to look at. What was actually heard by the jury, and why the public memory and even just the media take on it is still different from that. What do you think?
Well, I was just looking at remembering the title of your podcast tonight, and
Hmm.
I do not defend
Oh,
Betty. I find her entertaining, but wouldn't defend what she did.
right,
I
right.
thought that Kim. Um, okay, two thoughts. Yeah, I mean, Kim was not helpful. That's for sure. Her testimony was not helpful to Betty. But also, I found myself thinking during her testimony that children don't always know what's going on. And she
Hmm.
seemed to be very confident in what she was saying, but I'm not so sure that all of her opinions, although she's obviously very entitled to have them, I'm not sure that all of her opinions really were based on evidence either. That was just her take.
Hmm. Her
Um,
perspective, yeah.
yes, yes. So, okay.
And another well, before we get into that, I do want to start this off, especially for the people who may discover this video on replay, that I would like to keep the discussion thoughtful but respectful. So I know this is a very divisive case and a hot button
Mm,
issue for a lot of people. I've seen comments elsewhere
wow.
that show that it's still a very, very sensitive thing, and people can get pretty emotional about it. So I welcome differing perspectives and good faith disagreement, healthy disagreement, but no personal attacks, please, no trolling, no hostility in the comments toward other people. Those will be removed. Zero tolerance here for that.
Yeah, and
We don't have
I
time
didn't
for that.
I did not know it was a divisive. I mean,
Oh,
like I said,
very.
I was barely 30 years old when this happened, and I wasn't really. I was only started getting interested in watching trials like since COVID. So,
Hmm.
I remember the trial happening, like I said, because I'm local. But yeah, I had no idea there was so much going on with
I
Betty. And
was
then I did
watching the
remember her
OJ
being on
trial.
Oprah. Right, OJ. Another one that was out. Menendez is right here in LA, and then
Hmm.
um, oh my gosh, I just lost his name. The gentleman who is in prison for life, who is now gonna trying to get a new trial
Oh,
because
Scott Peterson.
Scott Peterson.
Yeah.
He ended up getting arrested very close to where I live. So,
Wow.
yeah, that
Trying
was
to flee
another
to
one.
Mexico
Yes,
with
he
his
was
blonde
in
hair.
San Diego also. Yeah, so all of those kind of happened at the same time, but I wasn't paying that much attention to crime at the time or to
Right, right.
trials, but you did hear about it, of course, on the
Yes.
news and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like, I mean, I'm not so sure that I can't remember now what evidence the daughters really provided apart from their testimony.
Well, right, their testimony. And I
Right.
think they brought in some of the recordings under Kim's testimony. She was
Mm-hmm.
able to authenticate that
Mm-hmm.
those were recorded on her dad's answering machine.
Mm-hmm.
And they played, during her testimony with Betty talking to um, Danny, and maybe both Danny and Red, I'm not sure.
Right.
But yeah, and those were pretty strong evidence against her.
Right. That she was going. I got the impression that Betty might have always been a little off, but that she
Hmm.
just went right over the edge with the extramarital affair by Dan and the marriage falling apart.
Hmm.
And I also will say just about me is I don't tend to turn victims into saints. I don't think Dan was a
Right.
saint.
No,
I
of
don't
course
think
not.
Dan Markel was a saint. I don't think anyone was a saint. I particularly don't think Broderick was a saint.
No, he
Okay.
was. No one's a saint.
Right. But I'm not, I don't know. I mean, certainly didn't deserve that, but
No.
I'm not so sure that Betty didn't have some points, is all I'm trying to say. And then I also don't really hate too much on people who commit crimes. I try to keep just a little bit of a balance there because
Mhm.
everyone
We're
has
all
their
human.
history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So just, that's just a little about my take on, so I don't tend to be one side or the other over the
And
top.
that and
Yeah.
I can respect that because that saves your sanity, right? If
Right.
you try to stay neutral, but if you feel too strongly,
Mm-hmm.
like I got so invested in the Casey Anthony case to
Mm.
to the point where when she was acquitted, I was bawling. I was so
Oh,
affected that I
right.
swore off true crime. I was like,
Wow.
not getting
Sure.
involved in anything ever again.
Oh.
And then I had to kind of, assess my perspective and say, well, at least she got off for killing her own kid, not somebody else's.
Oh
It's
my
like
gosh.
I had
Oh
to
my
try to find the positives
Something.
here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
there aren't too many people who do get away with big crimes like this.
Yeah.
So I can't. There are some that get convicted that I think probably didn't get a fair trial. That bother me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Delphi murders, for example.
Yeah. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
follow that, but it seemed iffy. I mean, he did
Mm-hmm.
confess, but it seemed like a lot of people confess to crimes they didn't commit, right?
That's right. But
So,
he was really being pressured.
and he seemed a little bit off,
Mm-hmm.
to put it nicely. But like Jean-Benet Ramsey, they've had how many people confess to that?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
about him. I don't know if he is the right one.
I don't. I Yeah. I don't either. I don't think there was enough. There's too many things at that trial that didn't that weren't done properly
Mm-hmm.
and were done in secret. That
Mm-hmm.
there's enough. And even with Betty, I want to say it was really interesting to take a look back at what we only have the second trial, right? To look
Yeah.
at for the most part on YouTube and to see what was done. And I'll have some of those comments for you later if we have
Mm-hmm.
time. But if to see the way things were done, what was this, 35, 34 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
compared to today, she she didn't get a fair trial in many ways. There were things done during that trial that just blew me away, and I did
Like
take.
what, for example?
Okay. Well, one of the things that came to mind right off the bat was those mannequins with the
Oh,
post
yeah, they were left sitting there.
throughout the entire trial that would never happen today. Never.
I
That
know.
was terrible.
Yeah, that
That
was, what do
that
they
was
call it?
demonstrative.
Demonstrative, but it's called, bringing it to the Adelson trial when they were complaining about how long Georgia would leave the images of Dan on the screen.
Right.
Um, I forget what it's called, but um, yeah, that's what that was like, having
That
them
was just one
standing in the courtroom.
example. Yeah, I mean, just one example. It would never fly today. Never.
But here we have Alma who is saying, I think he drove her to it.
I kind of
Well,
think he did too, but I
well,
don't
what
think she
evidence
was.
of that is there? This is what I want to talk about. Where's the evidence that he drove her to it?
Well, the way that the divorce was handled,
Hmm.
and it's very difficult because I don't know that they were allowed to bring all of the divorce files into the trial,
Hmm.
but I could very easily see a lawyer, and they accused Dan Markel of this too. I don't think it
Hmm.
necessarily was true, but a lawyer of, um, kind of bullying her in, in court
Hmm.
and doing a lot of sneaky things, having her served at work, just a lot of things to just humiliate her.
Hmm.
But I do think that that could have happened to 100 other women and they would have murdered. I mean, there must have been something in her to allow her to get that off.
Yeah, but that's the whole premise. He drove her to it.
Yeah,
So that's
that's what
what
I'm.
her defense was
Yes, it
that they
was.
drove her to it. So I'm asking, What evidence did she present that proves that, that supports that they drove her to it?
Well,
Because I didn't see any.
we're going to look at the closings, and I did.
Mhm.
I mean, I thought the defense did a pretty good job. I thought the defense also was a little bit more talented than that prosecutor. It's interesting it took 2 trials to get a conviction. And
Well, I think that's because of this conversation we're having right now. There
I
were
don't know,
two
was
people on the first, they interviewed people on
oh,
the
okay.
first, from the jurors, some of the jurors from the first trial, and they said there were two, because it was a 10-2 split, and there
Mhm.
were two who were holding out for manslaughter. They believed
Mhm.
that there was some emotional
Mhm.
component and that it wasn't murder, whatever the criteria is for second or first degree murder, they didn't
Mhm.
feel it met that. And so the other 10 did. And that's why they deadlocked. So it's this conversation we're having now. Well, how did Dan and Linda drive her to it? Was it because Linda's voice had been on the answering machine that drove her to it?
I think there was testimony by at least I think it was Lee. I'm not sure if it was both of the girls, but that Linda was did say unkind things about her as well. There
I'm
was
sure she did.
testimony that it went both ways, in other words. I don't
Did
think
you
it was one
hear?
sided.
Did you hear? Okay, the recordings of Betty speaking to her son, Danny.
Yes. Yes.
And did you hear her tell her son that she wants him to call Linda a
Yes.
cunt,
Yeah.
and that he cannot come and see her until she gets the cunt out of the house, until he, the 11-year-old boy, gets the cunt out of the
Well,
house.
she had obviously lost it by then. I mean, she had really lost it by
This was
then.
2 years before the killings. This was in 1987, these
Right,
recordings.
but this divorce, I mean, wasn't it like a 6 year experience when he met Linda and by the time he married her?
Yeah, so he
Yeah.
he and Linda began at the end of 83. He left Betty a year and a half later, like at the beginning of, I think it was February 85, he moved out. And then later in 85, he filed for the divorce. So from 85 to 89, it was a 4-year period. In that 4-year period, I I heard no evidence of Dan and Linda harassing Betty. We have Betty saying that she started to receive flyers for weight loss in the mail, but I question whether that's true, the veracity of that, because
Yeah.
she could have been sending them to herself or she could have just been making that up. And we have plenty of evidence of Betty harassing them,
Right, but Dan was a
including,
lawyer, so he would know not to leave evidence. He would
well,
know
he
how to
was
bully
a
her
lawyer, but
without doing
he
it.
didn't need to do much. She was doing plenty to give him ammunition against her. That's what I see.
Well, no
He
doubt
didn't need
she
to
was losing
he
it. She
didn't need to screw
lost it
her
for
over
sure. But
because
I don't think that means that he didn't do anything.
no,
You
I'm
know,
not
I
saying
don't.
he didn't do anything. It was a bad divorce. He did
Mhm.
cheat on her in the marriage. I'm
Mhm.
not saying he didn't do anything, but did he drive her to break into their house and shoot them dead in their beds?
Well, I wouldn't say
What did
anybody
he do
drove
to do that?
anybody to do that because you have to do that on your own. You can't blame somebody else. But I think that there was, honestly, I wasn't taking notes on what evidence on either side. I could
Mhm.
definitely go back and do that. But I will say that, first of all, he's a lawyer. He's not going to leave evidence. And if
Mhm.
somebody is being bullied in the courts, you're going to be covering all of your tracks. But I'm pretty sure that their hands were not clean, Dan and Linda, and that they didn't do any back and forth. She chose to do what she did. Betty is responsible for what Betty did. And it's really sad that I didn't see, speaking of evidence, any evidence of Dan ever attempting to get her help, attempting to use kindness, attempting to get her help. Because if she was really I mean, obviously she lost it, right? Before this all happened. Because,
Yeah.
like you're saying, as evidenced by those messages and some of the other crazy things she did, driving into the front door. I mean, she obviously needed help. She obviously needed
She
something.
she
And
did not.
he wouldn't answer her. He wouldn't give her the time of day. He just cut her off and she was flailing. And so I would say, I mean, if somebody is that off around you, first of all, yeah, why didn't he take her seriously? Like, they did have security at their wedding, for example, right? So he knew that she was somewhat of a danger, and but also to herself and to the children. So why didn't he get her help instead of just
Get her
ignoring her
help
and not answering the phone and
because
letting it go to voicemail?
the only thing Betty Broderick wanted was Dan Broderick to come back to the marriage. And anything short of that, she was going to be on the attack. And
We
that's
don't
what
know
was,
that. We don't know
no,
that
we
because
do
he
know
didn't
that.
do. No, we don't
We
know
do know
because he
that.
didn't do that. He
The
didn't. He
evidence
didn't.
is came out at the trial. We do know that. We have the housekeeper who testified that this is a few weeks before she murdered them. She told his housekeeper, Betty told her, I know Dan and Linda just want me to leave them alone, but that isn't going to happen because I'm either going to make his life a living hell or I'm going to kill him.
What I'm saying that we don't know is we don't know that Dan didn't take other measures to help her because it didn't happen.
I don't think that even if he did,
I
because
don't
of the
think we can say
testimony,
that though.
I think we can, because a shrink testified who Betty was seeing. Did you miss that? That's evidence. The therapist that Betty was seeing during the custody wranglings, okay, in court, that she created, by the way, because she abandoned the children on Dan's doorstep one by one. When you hear Betty tell it, oh, Dan used the courts to take my kids away. Yeah, it was pretty easy because you abandoned them on his doorstep when he wasn't even home. That's a fact.
Well, I don't
That's
dispute
facts and
that.
evidence.
But
So
what I'm talking about
she
is what
created
Dan
these
did to help her.
situations
No, I agree she did, but
and
I'm
then
just
says
saying
Dan used the courts to bamboozle her.
well,
That's
that
not
could
true.
both things could be true. But
Well,
what I'm
but
saying
I
is
would love to hear the specifics of
what I'm
what
saying
Dan
is
did to
there's
her in court.
absolutely no record of Dan or anyone in her family, anyone. Her friends were sort of helping her on the side, but I think one friend talked about her maybe suggesting that she needs help,
She was
psychiatric
seeing
help.
a therapist.
Right, but
That therapist testified.
more than that. I
Okay, let's
mean,
talk about what the therapist she did see testified to, because maybe you missed that. We should probably watch that. But she was seeing a female therapist, and the therapist said Betty Broderick is probably the angriest person she's ever known in her career. And she was concerned enough about the threats Betty was making in their sessions against Dan's life that she actually reached out to Dan to warn him. She also testified that Betty told her she will not be a single mother to four kids. He will die first. She refused to take the kids back. She abandoned them on his doorstep and then refused to take them back.
so again, what I'm asking is then if that's the case, like at least today, and again, maybe what I was
Hi,
noticing is
Judy. Judy's here.
I know Judy's here.
Thanks for
Um,
coming
the
in.
the difference between if somebody made that kind of a threat in a psychology or psychiatry appointment today,
Hmm.
they would probably not be going home that night. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm just saying why
This is 30
wasn't
odd years ago, so
more
it's a different time.
exactly. And there's absolutely no very well, I shouldn't say no, but there's very little known about what measures were being taken until she got arrested. Then she
Uh-huh.
got arrested for violating the restraining order, and then she spent, I don't know, 3 nights in a
Well,
psychiatric
she
ward
was
type thing.
Baker acted for running her car into his front door.
Right, right.
Right.
So she had to go in
Well, we
for
call it a Baker Act in Florida. I don't know what they call it
okay,
over
right,
there.
for
The
yeah,
72-hour hold. Yeah.
right. It's not. I don't think it's called that here, but yes. So
Mhm.
she had some attention, but what I'm wondering is instead of just ignoring her or saying, not answering the phone, that type of thing. I'm not saying you needed to be a slave to her demands. I'm
Mhm.
not saying Betty wasn't in the wrong on anything that you said. I agree with, but there's also, I think, a little bit more compassion might have gone a long way. We don't know how that would have turned out because that's not what pathway Dan took. Now, maybe you're right. Maybe it was a foregone conclusion, but you don't really know that until it happens. You can say, well, maybe she would have killed him anyway. Maybe she would have. But if I would have liked to have seen some kind of evidence that more was done to address her
I don't think
psychological,
I don't think
problem.
it was possible when you hear, and I encourage anyone who listens to this on replay is not familiar with this, go back and listen to those excerpts of Betty talking to her underage little boys that Dan Broderick recorded on the phone because of the things she was telling these little boys. Um, she did not care about her children's feelings. She only cared about her own feelings, and that comes across very clearly. I mean, I tear up when I hear that like half-hour call with her and Danny. You can hear how much pain that little 11-year-old boy is in, and
Oh,
she's
her.
oblivious.
Okay. Okay.
Okay? She's oblivious, and she's telling
Yes,
him
she's
Linda's a
gone.
cunt,
She
and
is
the cunt
like
needs to
she's
go,
out in
and his dad's a
space.
cunt sucker, and I mean, she's saying the most vulgar,
She
nasty
is
things to these
gone.
children.
She is
And when he says,
psychologically gone.
yeah,
Like
and when
she's
he
checked
says,
out.
Mom, you need to stop saying these bad words. We can't come and see
Mm-hmm.
you if you don't stop with the bad
Mm-hmm.
words. And she says, she wasn't saying bad words before he started effing the cunt,
Mm-hmm.
and things like this is how she's talking to her child.
Yeah, I
And then
know.
she's telling him to call Linda the cunt. So I'm sorry, but
But that doesn't have anything to do with murder. That was Betty.
it
Okay.
has to it came in because it's state of mind. Okay,
Right.
it relates to her state of mind and also to Dan's and
Was
why he was recording this stuff and why he stopped answering the phone and let the machine answer it and stopped letting her talk to them because this is what she was doing. And then the housekeeper also testified to Danny when she told him that he could not come to see his mom if he didn't get the cunt out of the house. The 11-year-old is supposed to get her out. He runs to the bathroom, gets the scissors, and cuts chunks of his hair out.
yes, I know. I know.
Okay.
I
And
don't think
says
there's any dispute about
he's
how
trying to get the
nuts she
pain
is.
out of his head that his mother put in his
Yeah.
head.
Yeah, I know. I know. I guess my
That's Dan's fault? That's
what
not
I
Dan's fault.
no, I did not say that.
No, I
It
didn't
was
say you
Dan's
did.
fault. I
There
don't
are
think
still
anyone has. I
people.
hope not. But my question
Betty
was,
blames it all on Dan.
as we started this going, is how far gone was she in the first place before all of this even happened? That was
Well,
what I was trying to get at
she was
because
diagnosed. There was the state put on a rebuttal case after the defense went, and they had a psychiatrist testify who diagnosed Betty with narcissistic personality disorder and histrionic personality disorder. And he testified for a long time going into why he has diagnosed her with those things and giving examples of the things she was doing that exhibit those traits. And I think she was always a
hmm
narcissist. Dan reportedly told people that once he married her, as soon as they got married, he knew he'd made a mistake. Something was not right with her.
And
But
where did you hear that? Because I thought I heard. Say, I didn't get to see the whole trial because I only knew about this a week ago. So I only got some of the testimony in. But I did. I thought I heard that too. Was that in the trial?
I'm not sure if it was in the trial or if I just heard it from a book or something.
Mm-hmm.
I can't pinpoint where I got that history from.
Right.
But
Maybe it
because
was
of
the
their
brother.
religion, you don't divorce.
Right.
They Catholics, and
Right.
um, divorce wasn't an
Sh-
option.
She also had what, like 7 miscarriages?
And she also had abortions that she didn't tell him about.
Yes. Yes.
And
So that had
mhm,
to add to the anxiety and
here's what I
whatnot.
think gives a good idea of what that marriage was like even before any of this started. Um, People testified. I saw two different friends testifying at this second trial to how Betty spoke to Dan in a very demeaning way in front of everybody. She would call him a fag, she would put him
Oh
down,
my God.
she and they testified. This is evidence at the trial, witness testimony
Okay.
to this in the 70s, 80s, before.
Mm-hmm.
This is pre-Linda, pre-affair, right?
Yeah.
And this is just the state of their marriage, where they said, for his career, his professional life, she was very complimentary. But when it came to him personally, it was like she was the superior one. She was the beauty queen who deigned to marry him. And he was supposed to always worship her for that. Right. And she would insult him in front of them, and they felt uncomfortable at dinner parties, if they were out together. The way she spoke to Dan was very emasculating. So when you hear that testimony coming from people who were their friends and knew them, you get an idea, okay, what kind of dynamic was going on in this relationship when he meets Linda Kokina?
Well,
And
I honestly felt the take I had, and
mhm,
again, I didn't see the whole all of the testimony, but
mhm,
the take I had is pretty much what you think of Betty. Obviously, I think of Betty. I mean, it's not
mhm.
so it'd be really hard to defend somebody who speaks like that with to their children and whatnot. But I think she was far, far gone at that point. But I also thought that Dan was extremely ostentatious and materialistic, and had maybe his values weren't quite in the right place either. So the two of them together, I think, was just really a bad match. Like just a match that was going to yield problems, right? It
Yeah, I
just
think
seemed.
they were mismatched, but specifically when it comes to his affair, because ideally he should have left Betty in 1983, right? When he realized he wanted to start a relationship with somebody else. He didn't do that. And I think in that context, where he has a wife at home who's constantly humiliating him and insulting him in front of people, and
Mm.
if he comes home late, she's jamming his favorite ski into the front door so it'll break when he opens the door. She was doing savage things for control. I mean, exhibiting these narcissistic traits even before. And her daughter Kim testified to those things, right? When Dan did something that upset her or that she didn't like, she was savage.
She was
She would,
almost like, I mean, some of it is just almost comical.
it's comical, but she
It's
did
it's
it.
like Lucille Ball
Being
type
married to
stuff.
somebody like that has to
Yeah.
be hell. And
Hmm.
and I saw an interview with Dan's brother where he said it was not a happy marriage. And I think Kim testified that since she was 7 years old, her parents were fighting and talking about getting a divorce, and her mom would say, "Your dad and I are getting divorced. Who do you want to live with?"
Oh, I remember that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
she was
remember
like,
Kim's testimony.
as far back as she can remember, they were
Mhm.
fighting and it wasn't a happy
No,
marriage.
it was just a really. I do think, though, what I'm. You take her personality that was obviously already there, which is what I
Hmm.
suspected, and then
Controlling
you add to it,
the
and
money.
she did stay with him. She did have children with him. She did work,
She did.
and he did everything he wanted to build his career. And she, I mean,
Supported him.
rightfully thought that they would share in that. And then basically, it did appear from the outside that as soon as that started working out for him in terms of his career, it's like, okay, now I'm done with you. And
Now I want a
there were
younger version of
several
you.
there were several other lawyers at the firm who were doing the exact same thing. So they did
Okay.
have, so let me just say, and then in addition to that, the way that Dan handled things, he was gaslighting her. So you take her personality disorder and then you gaslight on top of it. And she
About the
does have a
affair, yes.
she does have a very dominant personality as well.
Yes.
So that had to just drive her right over the
And it
edge.
did. She did
I'm
a
not
fake suicide
saying
attempt, and she
right.
burned his clothes in the backyard.
Just acting
She
out, just
she did
acting
all
out.
these things
Yes.
before he left. Those are the things that led to him ultimately deciding, I gotta get away
Well,
from
he
this
was going to
woman.
go. Yeah, he was going to go anyway. I mean, I
Uh,
don't think the
he
writing was
needed
on the
to.
wall.
He was 2 years too late in leaving, if you
Right.
ask me.
Right. Well, yeah.
So, but he had 4 kids with her. It's not that easy to walk out on a wife and 4 kids. So I can understand. And I think he probably enjoyed cheating on Betty because she was
Mhm.
such a B to him, you
Mhm.
know, and insulting him in front of people. He probably got some satisfaction out of cheating on her.
And I think it was fairly understood too. I don't think there was any dispute about him not coming home at night, going out with the guys, drinking and all of that.
And
So
staying out, because that
that
was
did
one of the
not
things
help. That did
Kim
not
said.
help.
Kim said they fought a lot about him not being home enough
Right.
to help her with the kids.
Right.
And
Or
yes, I can
just support
understand.
her. Just support her mentally. I don't think she needed help with the kids. I think she had it handled.
She has
I think
four
she just want
kids. Of course she needed help.
well, no, she was very proud of how she took care of things, but
Yeah, but
I
4 kids
think
is a
what she
lot for.
needed was attention because of her personality. I mean, anybody needs attention, right? But in
Mhm.
addition, on top of that, with her personality disorder, she needed m- more
She needed control.
she needed more attention for one thing. And I mean, I don't blame her for being upset about those things. Again, I don't think it's would lead me to do
No, I
some of
think
the
it's a
things she
common I
did.
think it's a common issue.
Hmm.
My husband's not home enough. My husband's always at work. My husband's
Right.
working late again. That's not a novel issue, you know, but she did really outrageous things to
Hmm.
retaliate
Yeah, she
when
did.
he upset her. I mean,
Hmm.
that was just the state of the marriage before this happened. And I can see him meeting this younger version of her, because oddly, Linda does look like a younger version
I
of
know she does.
Betty.
She does.
And this person who is now treating him in the exact opposite way of his wife at home, adoring and complimentary and whatever. And when he
Hmm.
goes home, he's being insulted all the time and having his favorite things destroyed and, whatever. So I can see how that happened. And finally, at the end of 1983, was it 83? When did he leave her? 83. So at
Yeah,
the
because
end of
6 years before.
82,
Hmm.
Christmas 82, she had been suspecting this affair.
Oh yeah.
And so they had, had a tumultuous year or so
Hmm.
with him denying it. And like you said, gaslighting her that she's crazy and he's
Hmm.
not having an affair. And she said at Christmas, she wanted this blue sapphire diamond ring. And after everything he's been putting her through, she deserves that ring. And Kim testified to this. Um, he buys her a different ring for Christmas.
Hmm.
So Christmas morning, she opens her gift from him, and it's not
Hmm.
the ring she wanted, and she just eviscerates him
Hmm.
Christmas and says that this little thing is for a child and it's not worth the gas in her car to return it. She's just going to give it to Kim or whatever.
Hmm.
And she just went ape on him for not buying the ring she thought she deserved. And by February, he had moved out. He'd had enough. So she was clearly not a very reasonable person. She was a demanding woman and very controlling. So he'd had enough of that. and he moved out. Now, here's the thing. I'm just realizing I didn't even read the article.
I know we
I
started
meant to
talking.
read an article for people who may watch the replay and aren't
Mm,
familiar with the case. But anyway, um, when he moved, Betty told Oprah, she did an interview with Oprah in 1992, the year after she was convicted from prison. And she basically said, I fully expected that Dan was going to come back and we were going to quietly continue with we were going to go on like their friends had. They had plenty of married friends. They'd have infidelity in their relationship and they just kind of quietly go on. So she never imagined that Dan was actually going to divorce her. And that's what she spent the next 4 years punishing him for, because she told people she is supposed to be Mrs. Dan Broderick,
right,
period.
right.
And the fact that she was there working while he went to school, and this whole idea that when I hear people say, and I've been hearing that since this case, she put her husband through law school. And it's like when I think if somebody puts me through law school, that means they paid for my law school. That's what I think. Betty didn't pay for him to go to law school, but she was working, babysitting and stuff while he was in school. So I can understand why she feels invested, and that now that he becomes a millionaire, she is entitled to be Mrs. Dan Broderick and have this position in society, et cetera, et cetera. So when he leaves her and actually files for divorce, this is what led to the murder. She could not accept that she was basically replaced by Linda. And that, whenever that football game was in '89, where they all went to
Oh, right.
the
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame
Mm-hmm.
game,
Mm-hmm.
that was their tradition. That's, I think, where she and Dan met back in 60 whatever when they first met. And when she sees that it's now Linda and the kids with Dan going to the game, that helped push her over the edge to killing them. So this was, to me, if you watch the trial, it's very clear that Betty was projecting. Everything she was doing to them, she said they were doing to her to justify and turn herself into the victim. But there was no evidence whatsoever. There was the other lawyer who testified, who was representing Betty, when he was trying to sell the house that they raised all the kids in. I think it was on Coral Reef, and she refused. He was wanting to give her everything she was asking for. She thought she deserved more than 50%. He said, okay. Dana was agreeing to everything she wanted, and the lawyer kept going downstairs um, to Betty because she had refused to come upstairs to the meeting. So she's downstairs in the car. Her attorney kept going back and forth, and she kept refusing to
Mm-hmm.
agree to accept any amount. Because why? It wasn't about that for her. She just wanted to be difficult. So when Dan had to go to the court to get an order to sell the house, that's when she drove her car into his front door.
Right. But yeah, so there's a lot that went into the trial. There's a lot to this story. And I think that it's my take on it is that, like I said earlier, Dan could have done better, and he's no saint.
No, no, it never. Who said he was a saint?
No, I'm just saying he's. That's all I'm saying.
I mean,
I didn't say you were saying he's a saint. I'm just.
but
I
I have
don't.
never heard anyone say that Dan or Linda were saints. I've never heard that.
Yeah, and Betty, all I was trying to say basically is it just made me wonder what was going on with her all these years that she got to this point, and how did it get so far? I mean, if you've got a woman driving a car into your front door of your home while you and your children are inside,
Yeah,
like that person needs help,
yeah.
And how did it go so far without her getting what she needed?
I don't know
That
what she
that's
needed. Who is going to help someone who doesn't want it? unless she is committed and,
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
somebody, some court takes away her freedom.
Well, that's kind of, I mean, not forever, but I don't know. Yeah, it's just really sad because I don't even know if in prison she. The one thing I think that I find it's I feel careless saying this, but I'm just going to say it
Yes.
because one of the things that I found entertaining about Betty is
Mhm.
like, if you're going to do something like what she did in the end, she did it with reckless abandon. She didn't have any regrets. She was
No,
like, and it's
she
like,
never
hey man,
regretted it.
if you're going to do something, do it. And I will say, she did it. She did and I think she knew she was going to go to prison for the rest of her life. And I think maybe she even knew
No, she
she
told
was
people
either,
to convict her when they hear what Dan did to her.
well,
And, she told Kim
she
testified to
also
that, another
said
friend
she
testified
also said she's
to that.
finally free now that she's in
Yes,
prison.
it's
So she
finally
said
over.
many things. Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's not all she did. And
But it was over for her.
she seemed she never seemed to be regretful
She
of
wasn't. That's why she
yeah,
was denied parole twice.
right. And so it's just if you're
She
going to
told
be
Oprah and she did another interview from jail where they asked her about remorse. And she said
mhm.
what she's remorseful about is the fact that Dan destroyed their marriage. That's what she's sorry about.
Well, she did say, I remember her saying that she is remorseful for what happened to her children and the kids and everybody
But
that
she blames Dan. But it's Dan's fault.
no,
It's always Dan and
when I
Linda's
heard
fault.
her say that, she said she didn't say it with any caveat about Dan or Linda. She just said she felt remorseful about that. She gave many, many, many interviews over the years,
Hmm.
so no, Oprah
Yeah,
wasn't the only one. Yeah,
she was not sorry. She, the
she said, "I'm
parole.
not." How did she say it? She said, "I'm not remorseful. Wait, I don't have any regret. I'm not remorseful, but I do regret," which is kind of weird. So it was kind of like she really. I think she had planned to do this for a bit of time. I think she was
Yeah, because she
so
kept threatening it. She was
yeah,
telling the kids, "I'm going to kill him. I'm going
yeah,
to kill the
and
son
she
of a
did it,
bitch."
and she
Hmm.
just yeah. I just don't understand why, since she was saying that to her friends and to Dan and to Linda and to her children and her lawyer and God knows who the doctor, like,
The
why wasn't
therapist.
something
Yeah.
done? Yeah, why wasn't something done
I
to,
think he was doing the best he could. He hired security at different times. The security guy that managed security at his wedding testified
yeah.
to what he was told, why he was being hired, and
Well, he also wouldn't wear a bulletproof vest that day. I don't think he really thought she was going to do it. I really don't. I don't think he took it seriously.
well, the therapist called him and warned him. So I
Yeah, I
think for him
know.
to hire security at the wedding, he took it seriously. And he hired security at other times, according to Kim. But I think, at the end of the day, there were ish times when he felt he needed to hire security. So obviously he was afraid of her. And Kim said so, that her dad was afraid of her mom. And but did they think she was going to break into their house and shoot them in their bed? I doubt it, because they probably would have had an alarm system or something.
Well, evidently they had an alarm system and he wasn't even using it. So,
Oh, really? So yeah.
yeah, it's just odd. The whole thing is just, I don't think, I think this demonstrates that Dan really didn't feel that threatened by her because if he did, he would have taken other measures.
Well, 1989 in November, I'm not sure that he would have thought that, right? At the end of 89, they didn't see that coming.
I don't know.
Even though the letter she received the Friday before, she killed him Sunday morning. The Friday before, a lot was made about the letters from his lawyer saying, you're going to be held in contempt if you don't stop whatever it is she was doing. She would break into the house and steal stuff. Like she smeared the cake Linda made all over the bed. She stole their guest list for the wedding. She was constantly trying to provoke them. And again, she tells the housekeeper she knows they just want to be left alone, but it's not going to happen. To
There
me,
was one housekeeper that I thought was a terrible witness. I did not like her. I will say, if I were the woman, the other woman, Linda,
mhm.
and this was going on with the ex-wife, I would be out of there. I don't care if it was 1989 or not. There is no way that I would step into that kind of drama.
Well,
Who does that? Like what? I
she
mean,
married him. They
she
got
did.
married. So it
She
wasn't just,
did.
it
She should
moved
have
from an
run.
office fling
She had.
to
She
a
knew what
marriage.
she was getting into. She
I don't
knew.
think
No, because some of this happened before the marriage. Yeah,
I don't
Betty was acting up because it wasn't just like after they got married that this all started. I
no,
would
of
have
course.
been
Since
so
Dan
so
moved
so
out.
out of there.
From the
Out of there.
moment Dan moved out, she was on the attack.
Mhm.
And when he filed for divorce, it got even worse
I'm just
because,
saying, I don't care how old I was. If I were 17 and this was going on, I'd be like, bye. No
well,
way. I would want a situation like that, or be around that kind of not because I thought, not because I'm so, I would be thinking I'm going to get murdered, but just who wants that kind of drama in your life? Because she
well,
was
and I
just
think
gonna,
whether there was another woman or not, he would have left her. It was because she treated him very poorly.
he might.
So I don't think the marriage would have lasted anyway. And this would have happened anyway because if he had divorced her and stayed single, she would still be bitter that she's not Mrs. Dan Broderick helping herself to all his millions
I
that
don't
she
know.
felt she earned.
Yeah.
So the divorce settlement, that's another point of the trial. She was awarded $16,000 a month in 1989. That wasn't enough for her. She was very upset with that.
Well, because she knew further future earnings, were going to be much, much higher. So.
Well, this is why she was upset because he
Well, I
was
mean,
supposed to
you
stay
don't have to
married
be
to
you
her.
don't have to be a lunatic or Betty Broderick to want more money than that, given the situation.
Well,
Because if his earning potential was much higher than that, and she had four of his children. She
yeah, but she gave
was
them
with
to him.
him during all the lean
But she gave
years.
kids to
No,
him.
I don't care. I don't care.
No, you got to be reasonable. You cannot be unreasonable. Okay, I can see. Okay, no, you're making
I don't
millions.
think asking for more money than that would have been unreasonable, is what I'm saying.
Well, that's fine. You can
For
ask
anybody,
for
you don't
more
have to be
money.
a kook. You don't have to be crazy Betty, you know, to want more money is all I'm saying.
You
It's
can
just,
want more money, but the fact is, nothing was going to satisfy her short of him coming back to the marriage.
she did say that also quite a bit that she just thought he was having his, what is it, the 40
Midlife
year.
crisis.
Yes, yes,
Hmm.
yes.
She said that on Oprah that he was having a classic midlife crisis,
Right.
and that's not true.
And that she
The
read
evidence
books
shows
about
that
it.
that's not true. So,
It's what she believed. It's what she
I
believed.
don't think she believed that. I think she knew that exactly what Dan told her,
Which is,
which is he is not happy in the marriage. It's as simple as
well, isn't
that.
that what somebody says when they're having a midlife crisis? They're not happy. I mean, what
Well,
else would he say?
I mean, if you're married to someone who's constantly insulting you in front of people, is it a midlife crisis or is it I just don't want to be insulted in front of people anymore? I don't want to be married to somebody who doesn't respect me. Which is it? It can be
Did he say
both.
that? But did he say that? Is there evidence that he said that?
That he said what?
That he was leaving her because of the way she was treating him?
Yes, he was unhappy in the marriage and that she was avaricious. Everything was about money. She had, she talked about $10,000 gowns that she had in the closet. And I mean, she spent the money like it was water. And once they had money, once he started
Well,
making money,
as did he. They were the same that way. They were the same that way. They were both extraordinarily ostentatious and materialistic, very much so. Both of them. It wasn't just him.
Okay, but he didn't murder her in her bed. That's all I'm saying.
Well, we were talking about why he left her. So you jump,
No, but
yeah.
we're it's like we're trying to take score and like say they're both equal, and I just
No,
cannot see it that way.
on that one thing I'm saying. Both
Well,
were
they were married to each other. I'm sure they had plenty in common, as much
very
as they had not
materialistic.
in common.
Right.
So I'm just pointing out what she felt entitled to that caused her to attack him when he left her, because she was no longer going to have access to that lifestyle and that social status. And that is what caused her to harass them and ultimately kill them.
Yeah, it's a crazy story. It really is.
Yeah. And this
It's
is
been
why
a
I'm
wild.
asking, why do people still defend her? Because, you know, I'm still
Well,
waiting for the evidence of
on the
Dan
people who
harassing her in the courts or out.
well, I think there's why do people still defend her? I don't know anything about this, so I
Mhm.
just kind of looked at the trial this week. So why, when you say you see people defending her, what are they saying exactly?
They're saying that exactly what, who was our first commenter?
Alma.
Alma. Basically, different iterations of that. I think he drove her to it. Dan and Linda deserved it. Betty put him through law school, and then he traded her in for a new model. I don't defend murder, but I can understand why she did what she did.
Well, those were like
Things
five
like that.
things. Okay, so I think that he did have a part in gaslighting her, because
About
that's not uncommon. That's not hard
gaslighting
to
her
believe.
about what?
Having an affair, why was
Yeah.
he leaving? He wasn't honest with her. I think that he had a part in that. What was the other one? What she put him through law school. We
Mhm.
already know that she clearly did live with him in very meager conditions for a very
Mhm.
long time.
She
She
worked
worked while he was
in school.
in school, which is
Mhm.
fine, and she just never complained about that.
No,
You didn't hear her.
she wanted to
You didn't
support
hear her
him.
complaining about that. She said I was fine with that. Um, so it's so people paraphrasing and saying she put him through law school. I would say she was supporting the family while he was in law school, medical school. Okay.
Mhm.
What was the other one?
Just different iterations of Dan and Linda drove her to it.
Oh, and that they could understand
They
I can
understand why she did
understand
what
why
she
she
did.
might do it. I don't condone it. I wouldn't defend her doing it, but I can certainly understand what seems to have happened there. I mean, this happens in family law every day of the week, unfortunately. I mean, there's a lot of trials like this, which are really sad. But I hope that people are not saying that they deserve to be murdered, because no
Oh
one
yeah, people
deserves
are
to be.
definitely saying that. If you read the comments on
Oh
videos
God,
about
well,
this
I don't want to
case,
read those. No, no, thank
people
you.
are
No,
definitely
thank you.
saying they deserved it. I mean, not I'm not saying everyone is, because
Right,
you have the debate. You have people coming out and saying, "Are you crazy? She did this, she did that," and then other people defending her. So that's what motivated me to start this channel, to
right.
have
I
that
love it.
conversation, because I
I love it.
saw
I
that
love
back
it.
and forth. Yeah.
I would just say for me, like I think I started out with, it's like I don't ever think that anyone is 100% at fault and the other person is zero. Now, I'm not this kind of person who's going to say, well, it must be 50-50. It's always 50. No, no, no. It can be 90-10 for sure. It could be 80-20 for sure, like mostly somebody else's fault. I'm not like saying that it's half her and half him. But, and again, I would have to look at the trial in more detail
Yes, I do
to be able to
recommend that
answer some of your questions.
for everyone, that,
But I would
look at the
say
evidence.
my take on what I was able to consume this week is there's something wrong with that lady from the beginning, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And I'm just saying, how did this like not get noticed? And maybe
Well,
today it would get noticed. Like today we have mandated reporters. Like if she said something like that to her psychologist, they would have to report it to the authorities. They
Hmm.
would probably take her in more than once. I mean, at some point, somebody's going to have to notice she needs something. She needs help. And um, that's all I was saying about that. It just
Right.
seems so outrageous that she was just let go. I feel, and I think there's a certain part of me that feels sad about that for her because look at what she's missed, like what she missed out on her life, her children. She doesn't even have, it doesn't even appear that she had the capacity to absorb that mentally.
It was a choice. And her son, um, Rhett, the youngest son, gave an interview in 2003 on, I think it was Hard Copy or one of those shows.
Hmm.
And he said he loves his mom and he would love to see her released because he thinks the only two people she was a danger to were Dan and Linda. And he said, but when he reads her letters, she is still many years as 2003 railing against Dan and Linda to the point where he says he wants to say to her mom, you killed them, okay, they're dead, let them, stop bashing them in their graves. So she still maintained this rage
That's why
against
she shouldn't be
Dan and Linda.
released. That's why she shouldn't be released.
Exactly, that's why they
Because,
didn't
no,
let
I
her over.
disagree. She should not be released because I think I did see that clip.
Hmm.
And I was, and that's somebody wanting to see his mom, you know what I mean?
That's
And,
his mom, he said so.
but no, because if somebody, no, absolutely, she should not have been released.
Yeah, because
I mean,
I
she's a dangerous woman. There's
well,
no doubt about it.
and it's naive of him to say, well, she was only a danger to these two people. Well, what if you piss her off? What if you
Exactly.
don't do
How do
what
you
she wants?
know? Right. She had reckless abandon. Like she
Yeah.
did that without any, like if you're going to do something like that, I guess that's the way to do it. That's what's my, I know it's a horrible thing to say, but it's like that's what I thought was just kind of like, damn, Betty, you know. Okay, you
But
know.
Betty was unapologetically Betty. She
Which you got I kind of love. And she went in the next morning, turned herself in.
no, that same day she turned
She
herself in.
confessed, yeah, confessed on the stand. It wasn't like she was hiding from what she did, and I respect that.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's
Well,
also why she shouldn't be let out.
I have no respect for Betty Broderick.
Hmm.
She lost me at, the conversations with her 11-year-old child, and Rhett was
Sure.
even younger. So listening to those, you lost me there.
Well,
Sorry.
she was gone. She was, at that
And
point, she was just so far
but she's
gone.
still unapologetic about that. I
Oh,
think she probably died still blaming Dan for everything she did in
oh,
response
okay.
to Dan leaving her. So that
Mm,
because that's basically what she said. Him destroying the marriage caused
mm,
all of this. So it's the same as somebody, you know, someone hurts me and then I react in a
mm-hmm.
really over the top way and I
Right.
blame them. And I say, well, if you hadn't hurt me, none of this would have happened. That's what
Mm-hmm.
Betty Broderick does.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, it doesn't work that way. Yes, your husband cheated on you. Yes, he lied to you. Um, but that does not give you the right to do the things you did in retaliation. And that's where I sit on Betty Broderick. Um, the facts that came out at the trial show that she was the aggressor. She was the one harassing them. She was the one who stated she was not going to let him live in peace. And why? Because he should not have left her. Period. So at her trial, she comes up with this idea that Dan was physically abusive to her in the marriage. There was no evidence of that. That, Dan was,
Well,
bamboozling her.
there was some testimony of him breaking things and throwing motorcycles down canyons
But
and
not at her. Not
well,
physically abusing her. That's what she
but
accused him of.
that can feel threatening if somebody is hitting, a door, or breaking that can feel.
Someone can hit a door, they're not hitting you. There
No,
is still a
that
difference.
you know what? If you're a man and you do that, you're going to get you're and the woman calls the police, you're going to be
But
charged.
he still didn't hit you. So I think it's important to make that distinction. You hitting a door in anger or beating up something in anger is not you beating me up in anger. So I might get scared,
Right.
but you didn't hit me.
Well, I'm
So
just saying
she
she
made
could
that
have
up. It
felt.
wasn't true. There was no evidence that he physically beat her. And Kim testified that she always laughed and talked about the fact that she was bigger than him. She was not afraid of him.
I didn't think Kim's testimony was 100%. I think Kim was mad. I think I took some of what Kim said with a grain of salt. So just that's my take.
Well,
That's just I'm just
I
saying
don't
that's
think
how
she
I feel.
got, uh-huh, but I don't think she got on that stand and lied on her mother.
I
I
don't
just
think
don't
she
see that. I
lied.
found
I
her
think
credible,
yeah, I
and
don't think she lied, but I think she had a slant to her and I
well,
think
she
she was
admitted that
mad.
she was angry at her mother because
Yes,
she didn't like some of the
100%.
things she had done. And I
But you could
think
tell. It was pretty obvious. She was
yeah, but I don't
yeah, a
think
little
it
over the
made
top.
her lie, okay, and make things look worse on her mom than they really were. Um,
But
I
again, a
think
child is never, ever going to have the insight into a relationship that of their parents. They're
no, but
never
the
going,
child can
and
testify to what they witnessed.
especially if the parents kept things quiet, went in their own room to fight or whatever they did. They were not openly
No, but the kids witnessed things,
fighting in front
right?
of the
They
children. They
witnessed
would
her
take
throw a
it
ketchup
into a
bottle at him. She burned his clothes. They were there. She drove her car through his front door. They were there. Dan was not making her do any of those things. And they
well,
were
what we were
there as
talking about was
witnesses.
whether or not Dan was did anything that might have been temperament, like acting out in with his temper.
No, I physically assaulting her because that's what she accused him of in the trial.
Yeah, I don't know that I remember that. What exactly did she say he
She
did
said that he was physically abusive to her during the marriage.
on a regular basis?
That's what she said in her defense. Yes.
I
And
don't
that
remember
that
that.
those accusations never came up until the trial.
Sure. I
So,
would say I
mhm,
probably watched her testimony a long time ago,
mhm,
and I don't think I got all the way to the end of the trial, so I didn't see her testify because I had to
right,
jump then to the closing. So, yeah,
right.
yeah, so that's why I ask. Yeah.
Wow. So we have talked an hour and it
I gotta
feels
just
like I
say,
blinked.
I know that's how it works. That's how it works. Did you still want to? I just want to quick. Can I tell you my the fun stuff I had
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
trial?
sure.
Okay. Well, first of all, that video in the opening by
Yeah.
the prosecution where they made reenacting her steps as if it were Betty walking into the
It was
house.
so slow, painfully
It
slow.
was creepy but effective. Creepy as hell, but effective, but also wrong to allow it. And it would have been he would have never she would have never been allowed to do that in the trial today. No way. It was so bad. And the defense did object. He's like, "What?" Okay, and then I think I did mention those mannequins being in
Yeah.
the courtroom. Come
Mhm.
on. I mean, talk about, just emotionally getting the jury emotionally involved. Why on earth were the daughters in the courtroom hearing everybody else's testimony, including the opening statements? Those
They
were
were.
witnesses.
Hmm.
Yes, again, this would be a
And so was her
mistrial.
boyfriend, Brad.
Yes, this would be a mistrial today. An appeal. She would have gotten a new trial again.
And it would have,
Um,
I don't think it would have turned out any
oh
differently.
my, well, no, she would have had another mistrial too, and a third,
No, but I
and
mean,
had
if
a
she was retried a third time, I
yeah.
think she would still be convicted.
Well, and it is what it is. But she should have had a new trial. I think she had. I can see why some people think she had an unfair trial. I can
Hmm.
definitely see that. Um, I
But
think
she
the
had the
judge.
opportunity. She exhausted her appeals and all
I
that.
think the judge started out a little bit favoring the prosecutor, but then the prosecutor was bossing the judge around, and he's like, "No, I'm the judge here." I thought that was pretty funny. I didn't really love that prosecutor.
Carrie Wells went on to become a judge, and
Yes, she
she
did. Yes,
recently, I don't know if it was recent, but she practiced for like 30 years and retired
she
from the
also did a
bench.
lot of work for abused women in San
Mm-hmm.
Diego. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then one of my first thoughts was at the very beginning, and these are just my notes. She's just crazy. Is she just crazy? Because I think she's been crazy. I'm sorry to say crazy, but a very unbalanced person for a long time. Um, I thought her daughter was kind of unlikable. I liked
Kim?
Kim. I had a hard time with Kim. I probably didn't help when they played those those voicemails over in her like whiny, voice, and she's just a kid, so I need to give her a break. But it was just like, oh my god, I had to kind of fast forward.
Did we hear voicemails from Kim? I
I
thought it
think
was all Betty.
so. No, she was crying and no, I think it was Kim. I hope it was Kim. Maybe it was Betty. I was probably half asleep. I don't know. It
Yeah,
was
I don't
annoying.
remember
Whatever it
hearing
was.
any voicemails from Kim. It
Maybe
was
it was
all
Betty.
Betty's recording on
Betty
Danny's
has a funny
Handphone.
little whiny voice too,
Yes, she
doesn't
does.
she?
Yes.
Yes,
And
yes.
gets very sarcastic and.
Well, yeah, she's just got kind of a funny baby voice too, very
Hmm.
young sounding. They were also openly testifying about prior testimony. So it was kind of weird because the jury would then know that it was already tried,
Hmm.
which I don't think would happen today.
No, that happened in Adelson. They talked about Charlie's trial at Donna's trial.
Charlie's trial, but not Donna's. If
They,
Donna had a retrial, they wouldn't talk about another trial of Donna.
oh, I don't know.
In fact, on many trials, they even leave out like grand jury testimony type.
Oh, no, because Catherine McManawa, at her retrial, they talked about the testimony from the first trial, and where that she
I
had a
thought they
hung
had to.
jury.
I thought they had to leave that out.
No, at her second trial, they definitely referenced testimony and her own testimony from her first trial.
Well, I think it's a case by case basis, but I was kind of surprised how openly they were talking about the other trial. That's all I'm saying, and I was
They
like, that's
probably
strange.
did motions in limine and all that about that, and the judge probably let it in
Well,
because I
obviously
think
he
that, yeah,
did. Obviously he did, but
yeah,
I thought it was a little.
but
Um,
it definitely happens. They do reference the previous
well, and I think in this
trial.
case, because it was such a big trial, probably they were like, well, everybody's going to know it's a retrial, so.
I don't know. I
Um,
think that that was normal for them to be talking. Well, you testified to this before. Do because her lawyer was trying to impeach Kim a lot about what she had testified to before. And a lot of it seemed like smoke and mirrors. Like what she said before isn't all that different. He's trying to make something out of nothing. But they did
yeah, there's
reference
never
her
going to be
previous
exact
testimony.
testimony.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's never going to be exact. I would just say those kids, that family had to be wild growing up in that family, all like from the beginning to the end, all
I
the
feel
way.
nothing but sympathy for those four children,
What was the
Kim
chain? What
included.
was the chainsaw incident imagined by Kim? Do you remember that?
She said when her mother drove the car into the door, it
Hmm.
sounded like a chainsaw, and she thought she had chainsawed her dad, so she ran
Oh my
away.
God,
Yeah, she says, I thought my mom killed my dad with a
that's
chainsaw, so
right.
I ran away.
That's right. That's
Can you
right.
imagine?
No, that's why I wrote it down. I was like, whoa,
She said
what
it
a
sounded
family.
like a chainsaw when
It
the car hit the front door.
Right, and that's what made me say, what a family life, what a wild
I mean,
life they had.
I feel nothing but sympathy for them.
Oh,
She
sure.
used them as pawns, and the reason I have no respect for Betty or any sympathy for Betty is because just your husband cheated on you and lied to you doesn't give you the right to do what you did. And she hurt her children beyond measure. Just listen to that phone call, what she's saying to her son,
Hmm.
11 years old.
Yeah,
Okay. And she wouldn't stop. He was begging her, Mom, please stop saying
yeah.
bad words. And she just kept on even more.
I just don't. I just to this moment, I don't see how this was allowed to keep going on. It just made me crazy.
Well, I
How
mean,
about the?
Dan
Okay, here's.
tried. Dan got restraining orders against her. Dan, got the answering machine so that they wouldn't have to answer her calls. And
Yeah,
this is what
restraining
she
orders
started
and coming.
doing.
I thought it was kind of humorous, the court reporter running out of paper and having to stop the trial and run out to get paid. Because that's something we don't
I
have
don't
to
know if
deal
I
with
noticed that.
anymore. I thought
Yeah.
it was like this, it
It's
was just so,
1991.
it was so novel to see some of these things. It's just like, and then what about that big bed in the middle of the courtroom during the closing statements?
Yes, they really did show and tell, didn't they?
Wow. I was like, what? I don't think that was really helpful to the defense because that was the defense.
Yeah.
I was like,
Listen,
oh,
Betty's claim that she just went there with the gun to make
right,
them listen to her.
right.
And, you know, suddenly she comes into the room, they move, she moves, she moves, they move, and the gun goes off
And
five
then I
times.
got, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And oops, I don't know, I don't know. But then, Betty, you grab the phone out the wall. You yank the phone out of the wall.
Yeah.
What's that about? If it was just like, oh my God, oh, what did I do? I shot them. Oh no. No. And
I
then
mean, and she
you
didn't say
call several people when you leave and you
she,
tell them
well, she, because
you finally shot the son of a
she
bitch.
was
Come
proud of
on.
it. She's
She
proud of
was
what she
proud.
did.
And
Yeah,
she felt like it's over now. Finally.
she was
I
proud of it.
can I can be at peace.
Now, I
He's
didn't
dead.
understand a couple things that they were asking Kim about. They were asking Kim about her mother's financial arrangements with her father, and she was speaking as if she had authority on that. I didn't think that was the right person to be asking about
I
that.
didn't think she did. It was the defense lawyer who was asking her questions that I felt were inappropriate for him to
I
be
think
asking
a
her.
lot of things that were asked of Kim were very inappropriate. Let's put it that way, both
But it was
sides.
Betty's lawyer who was questioning her in depth
Mm,
about money and their
mm,
finances. And she
no, I
kept
think
saying,
on
like,
cross he might have, but I think the prosecution also did. And then she also, okay, let's see if I can make sense of this note. If he's an alcoholic, and okay, so this is again Kim. He would go out with his friends and drink. He had DUIs, and then
he had
she's
a
like,
DUI from St. Patrick's Day.
I don't know anything about that. So it's kind of interesting. She would know all about their money stuff, but not anything about. But she
I don't
shouldn't
think she
know,
did know about their money stuff. I think she
right?
was
What she
saying,
was
like,
asked. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know about that. And she didn't know anything about her dad's money. Her dad wanted her and Lee to be independent. And he was telling them they're going to have to get jobs. They're going to have to start taking the bus. Like, he's not going to just fund their life. And they needed to start taking responsibility, which I thought, bravo, Dan, make them responsible. And she
Mm-hmm.
went off to college and he paid for she said he was paying for everything except her phone. Like, she had to pay for her own phone. And Lee testified that when their dad told them they're going to have to get jobs and they're going to have to start supporting themselves, that Kim was bitterly upset
Mm-hmm.
about it. And my impression of Kim, I mean, again, I don't judge any of the children. I don't judge her because I feel nothing but sympathy for them in this situation. And but my impression of her is that she was much less mature than her younger sister Lee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
The
would have
way
to
she
agree with that.
testified
Yeah, that's
was
not
almost like
judgy.
she was a 15-year-old instead of a 21-year-old. And
Right.
Lee testified much more mature,
Yes.
much more well spoken,
Mm-hmm.
even though I do feel the veracity of some of what she was saying was questionable because she was clearly backpedaling. And the prosecutor impeached her on one point where during the custody court hearings, when she met with the judge in chambers, what she had told the judge was different from what she said in her testimony at the trial.
I also noticed that Kim was testifying. They were asking her questions. She was testifying about what Lee was saying, that Betty said. It was like hearsay upon hearsay. And I'm
Right.
like, has nobody going to stand up and say hearsay? I'm like, hearsay. And, and then
Well, they probably ruled it.
I
I'm
thought
sure
it,
he did, but the
I
judge
thought it
probably
was
ruled it was
weird
admissible.
that Lee, speaking of Kim, you mentioned about responsibility and all that. Why, why? Dan's a lawyer at this point. He's got plenty of money. They're out of debt, or getting out of debt at least. And he allows them to foreclose on their MG midget, on a car. They foreclosed. They didn't just like he didn't take the car away and bring it back to the dealership and pay it off. Whatever he let them
I'm
foreclose on
thinking
it.
that was Kim's car, right?
Yes,
It
but
has
no, but
something
he
to
was
do with
driving
her.
it too. He was driving it
But
too.
it had something to do with her. And I'm not, I don't
But
remember,
why
I
let
don't
it
know about that.
foreclose? You've got money for that. Come
I
on.
don't know.
I just
I
thought that
didn't,
was weird. I just
I
thought
didn't
it
pay
was
a whole lot of attention to that, but I
super
know that
weird.
he was trying to discipline them and make them realize that they couldn't ride his coattails, that they were going to have to take responsibility for
Well, you
themselves.
do have to understand where they grew up and the school that they went to, the schools that they were going to, and the people that they were rubbing shoulders with had
Mm-hmm.
billions more than Dan, right, at that
Mm-hmm.
point. And
Mm-hmm.
so they were around very wealthy families, and they were just wanting to do what the other kids were doing.
Which is natural, but he
Yes.
was doing the right thing in not indulging that.
I don't
Because
know. I
he's
thought he
teaching
seemed a
them
little cheap.
responsibility.
I thought he
No, I
se-
think it's important to teach children who grow up in privileged homes
I do too, but I thought he
responsibility.
was being a little bit weird on some certain things. I can't.
He
That
disinherited
was the
Lee.
one. That was the one thing that I took note of the midget. But I thought there were other things that I thought were, that's odd. That's an odd
He
choice.
wrote Lee out of his will. Did you know that?
I don't care because it had nothing to do with the trial. Was
Well,
that in the trial or
I'm not, I don't think it was in the trial.
okay?
It's
Okay,
just a part of
yeah.
about the story, the family story. But yeah, she was
Did
on
he?
drugs and she was having disciplinary issues. She was butting heads with Linda. She testified to that.
Oh, I did not like the way that housekeeper spoke about Lee. That's what I didn't like about her. The one
Mhm.
housekeeper who was the mother of the other younger one,
Mhm.
I forget their names. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
There was like a babysit. I don't know, they're calling them housekeepers, but whatever, nannies.
Mhm.
And she had a daughter who also worked for that family. But
Mhm.
she was not, I thought she was just so off as a witness. She had problems about Lee.
She
That
did.
would, but no, that wasn't her place to say it. She wasn't asked about that. It was in it was just volunteered. She was very judgy. I did not like that lady at
Well,
all.
well, Lee did have problems, and she testified that
Hmm. She
Linda
did.
was trying to, discipline them and have some kind of parental role, and she didn't think it was her place. So, there were issues there. And
Well, yeah, he's
eventually,
practically the same age as her.
almost, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So I don't
um,
blame her for that. Yeah.
you're going to have problems, either way
Yeah,
when
yeah.
this person broke up your family.
Sure, sure.
But she also did have a drug problem, and I don't know. This is not facts that came out in the case, but I would imagine that's what led to him disinheriting her. And she was also, and I also
I don't
think
think he left much behind. I don't think there was much an estate. I think he was. I don't think those kids had much of anything after he
he had a
died.
life insurance policy because Betty told him when she kills him, they'll be rich.
Jeez, Betty.
Yeah.
Another thing I loved, I just so random. Phone books, phone booths,
Yes, she went to the phone booth to call Lee
and looked it up in the
and
phone book,
everybody
and I'm
that she
like,
called.
oh, phone books. Phone books were so fun. We used to
This
look at
was
the phone book. I
1991, and
know.
well, she killed him in '89. It was 1989, and
Hmm.
she left the house, ripped the phone out of the wall, threw the phone at the top of the stairs, left the house, and got in her car, went to a payphone, and called a couple friends, and told them that she finally killed the son of a bitch. And
Hmm.
she called her daughter Lee and said, who had an apartment, in the area, and she's like, "I'm going to try to get to you, but if I don't get there, it's because the cops got me."
Hmm. That's what she
And that
did.
she told Lee exactly what she had done. But now suddenly at trial, I thought he was after me. I didn't know if I had shot him. You told one friend you heard him gurgling in his blood.
Oh God, yeah.
Betty,
I I liked the defense's takedown of the bullet expert. I don't even know the guy who looked like the Long Island serial killer guy.
I don't remember
I
that.
forgot his. Do you know who I mean?
No.
Oh gosh, oh my gosh. Okay, well, first of all, one of the things was gunshot residue. I'm like, I kept thinking, why aren't they talking about gunshot residue to show how close she was? And finally, the defense finally brings it up. What about gunshot residue? And the guy's like, what? And I'm thinking, wow, even gunshot residue today is such a typical thing that you expect in a trial like this. But maybe back then it wasn't. But the defense attorney seemed to be very familiar with how you can tell how far you might be able to tell how far the victim was from the shooter based on gunshot residue. And it was just crazy how little this expert knew. And he reminded me of, what's that guy's name? Rex. I don't even want to say his name, the icky guy from Long Island who was recently admitted to what he did. So I thought that was kind of quaint. There were so many little quaint things about this trial, but I don't think it would have held up. It would have been a much more robust trial, and maybe it would have made it through the first time right today. I can see how it was a mistrial, to be honest. I think they're lucky it wasn't a mistrial twice, or that the defense didn't get the involuntary, to be honest. But since there were two, I still think the judge would have found a way to keep her in prison for at least 50 years. I'm pretty sure.
Well, I think
And she wouldn't have
it
made
was
it.
clear first degree murder.
Well, yeah,
um,
I do too. I do
Someone buys
too.
a gun a month before
Absolutely.
her ex-husband remarries the woman he left her for. She's constantly telling multiple people who testify that she threatened them. Her kids come in and testify that she was constantly threatening to kill their father. And she buys the gun. She's constantly threatening to kill him. She gets in her car. She steals her daughter's key to his house. That she goes, oh, her key just happened to be in my pocket. That's basically what her testimony is. Like, oh, Kim's key just happened to be in my pocket. And I go, oh, yeah, Dan has a funny looking key. Wow, what a coincidence. And she drives over there, happens to be 5:30 in the morning, to make them listen to her. She's going to let herself into this house, enter their bedroom when they're asleep, wake them up at 5:30, and they have to listen to her at gunpoint. Yeah, that's going to go over really well, Betty.
Well, and
Like,
this is why
wow.
I don't think the prosecutor did very good, because
Mhm.
I think you and I both agree that it was first degree murder. Okay.
I think the
How did it
evidence
get a
supports that.
mistrial and then they only second degree? And did you see the prosecutor shaking her head back and forth? No.
Yeah, I think
Yeah. Yeah.
the reason is exactly what you're saying. She's charismatic. I think her testimony
She's
helps
kind
her
of
in that.
funny. She's kind of
Not just,
funny.
no, not about her being funny, but
Well,
when she
to
talks
me,
about
to
their
me.
life together, the way she comes across talking about how they met,
Mm-hmm.
how the marriage fell apart when she first
Mm-hmm.
discovered the affair, um, and then I think in this case, in my opinion, from watching her testimony, she actually helps herself. If she didn't testify,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she would create that feeling in some of the jurors that, you know what, this woman there, this she wasn't thinking clearly. This really wasn't a cold-blooded premeditated murder. This, you know what I mean? They want to vote manslaughter.
I don't
And
know, because in San Diego, I don't think she was very well liked. I don't know.
well, she
I
didn't
don't
get
know.
convicted of first degree murder
I
either time.
know. I
So
know. That's what
I
I'm
think her
saying.
testimony helped her. I really
It
do.
probably did. I just don't think the prosecutor did a very good job.
I think she did a
The
good
only
job.
thing I would add to this is two more really quick things, because
Hmm.
we're almost at our stop
Yeah.
point. But I just have to add these two things because I thought they were crazy. The the when they were doing the gun, they had the
Hmm.
gun out.
Yes.
They kept clicking, click, like what,
Pulling
pulling
the
the
trigger?
trigger. I
She
mean,
did?
not Betty, the prosecutor, the witness, the defense
Really?
attorney,
I missed that.
they pulled the trigger on that gun like 200 times. I'm like, stop it. It was click, 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 because I wasn't watching the whole time. And I'd run in and I'm like, they're still clicking that gun. Are you kidding me? And then, do you remember the part in the defense closing where you had the tick tock clock? Tick tock, tick tock going. Click, click,
Oh
click,
no, I
click.
didn't waste my time listening to the defense.
Oh, well,
Bunch of lies.
okay, well, I don't think they were all lies, and he had
Well,
some
where
really
was the
good
evidence? I
points.
have yet to hear.
Well, yeah, how are you going to hear it if you're not listening to the defense?
Argument is not evidence. Who testified or what did they enter into evidence?
Okay, well, I'll go back and get you a list. But
That Dan and
anyway,
Linda
okay, so
pushed
they
her
had
to do this.
the gun getting pulled. Click, click, click. I mean, everybody and pointing it. She was
Yeah.
pointing the gun. Like
Yeah,
I
she
was just
pointed it
losing my mind
in the
over
opening.
and over and yeah, not just in the opening, but during that testimony. I swear to God, that trigger was pulled like 100 times, and then the defense did it, and then the witness was doing it, and then the defense is like, is the jury going to be able to handle the gun and pull the trigger? And the judge is like, well, we'll give them the gun in the jury room. And I'm like, I wonder if they were pulling the trigger too. I was like, I don't know how long they were out for deliberation. But then the other thing was that tick tock, tick tock he had going during the closing arguments, which at first it was driving me crazy because it was pretty loud. If you can imagine that going, it was kind
That
of like,
metronome. Yeah. He had a
yes.
metronome.
And
Yeah.
he would turn it on and turn it off and
It's
turn
a
it on.
gimmick.
It
We've
was
seen, I don't know if you heard about that.
it was
This is a
annoying. If I were a
tangent.
juror, I would have been like,
But
I
that
would have stood up
trial
and said,
of
turn that thing
Melody
off.
Ferris, the Ferris wheel, the woman who put her husband in the burn pile.
Oh gosh, I don't think I saw that one.
Well, never mind. But the whole thing on her defense was she's too small. Her husband was 6 foot whatever. She couldn't have gotten his body down to the burn pile from the house. And her lawyer brought in, these big demonstratives to try to demonstrate what it would be to push 300 pounds or lift up 300 pounds. They do these gimmicky
I know,
things.
I know.
And this metronome is right in line with that.
Yes, yes. I
You know?
just thought it was it was
And
just
then when you
funny.
hear the jurors come out, they convicted her, of course. The juror said, you know what? We didn't spend a whole lot of time trying to figure out how she got him down there. She could have rolled him down. She could have pushed him down. She needed to get him there, and she had tractors on the property. They did not spend a
Mhm.
whole lot of time with reasonable doubt about, oh, how would this small woman get this
Well,
big man down to the
attorneys
burn
never
pile?
know exactly what a juror is going to think. So they
Exactly.
have to do what they have to do.
So
But
these gimmicks, sometimes it just makes things worse for your client because it just
mm,
underscores how guilty they are.
mm.
And the metronome thing was just a gimmick.
Oh, did you watch it? I thought you didn't watch it.
I saw clips of it.
Oh, okay.
Like I've watched the
Yeah.
videos that put clips of the closing argument from
Okay.
the
Yeah.
defense.
At
Yeah.
first, I was like, that is super, super annoying. But then I'm like, I kind of like this. I kind of dig this. I thought the defense. I think the defense attorney did a very good job with what he had to work with.
Well, there's argument, neither the state's opening statement or closing argument or the defense opening statement and closing argument is evidence. They're supposed to talk about the evidence and make their arguments, but only what comes from the witness stand and what gets
Hmm.
entered as exhibit is evidence, facts and evidence, as they call it. And I have not heard any evidence that Betty's defense entered that proves Dan and Linda were harassing her to this.
Well, even if they did, there's
Even the
still no
defense witnesses,
excuse. There's
listen,
still
the
no excuse
defense,
for her to murder her. I mean, even if they had done that.
but this is what people are saying, that they drove her
Mm,
to it, right?
mm,
Alma said that. And a
right.
lot of people agree with that. So that's why I'm saying, where is the evidence? That's the whole point of this conversation is, what happens when
Well,
media narratives.
you accepted earlier that witness statements were evidence,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, of course.
Okay. Well,
That's the only evidence is the people
okay.
testifying and the exhibits that get entered.
Right.
So I'm
There were
saying
witness statements about that.
about what?
About about Dan bullying her in the courtroom in the
Who? That's what I'm asking. What was that evidence?
witness statements.
Who said what?
And I don't remember
Be
if there
specific.
was more evidence than witness statements, but there was evidence of that.
What specifically though?
Darling, I didn't take notes on that, but I can go back again. I mean,
Because
I
that's
only
what.
had 1 week to prepare for this. Calm
But you're
down.
saying there was, and I'm saying, okay, give me this the deets because I haven't heard it.
I can't do that for you tonight, but I'll get back to you on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
but to say
It was
that
definitely my impression that there was evidence. Let's put it that way.
the defense witnesses seem to help the state because they would admit that Betty would make threats and this and that, and they were there mostly to provide evidence that she was a good mother, that they witnessed her being a good mom to her kids, blah,
Hmm.
blah, blah. But as far as somebody providing evidence that Dan was bullying her and harassing her and wouldn't leave her alone, I didn't hear it. Haven't heard it.
Yeah. And I don't know the answer to that right at this moment, but I will say just in general, it wouldn't be hard to believe either. So, hey, Top Cat. We're bickering. No.
No, we're not bickering. It's the Betty Broderick case is very,
It
very
has
high
her triggered.
emotionally.
She's very triggered because I'm coming into this very blind. Okay, I'm like, okay, I'll watch as much as I can of the trial to prepare, and I did as best as I could because there's a lot. I didn't have a chance to see the whole trial, but I did actually watch a lot and I found it very entertaining. And I'm
Yeah,
really happy and I'm very interested now to see the whole thing again and maybe in less of a rushed kind of fashion over time. Um,
right, right. And so
but
to
yeah,
me, it's
but
like the
I just wanted to say to Top Cat,
Mhm.
but Nadine has a way more experience with this trial than I do, and has really, and you're just. I think what you said to me, Nadine, which I thought was really interesting, is when Betty died recently. It's only
Mhm.
been what, maybe a month now? Has it been a whole
About a
month?
month. Yeah.
Yeah, when Betty died in prison recently, you were finding a lot more content on YouTube, on online about her being the damsel, or not the what? How was
The
it
victim.
framed? The vic.
Yes. That she
Yeah,
was, driven to do it, basically. That's that kind of argument.
yeah. And so my impression was, but I still will have to. I will just have to say that I still think the defense did a good enough job that they got a mistrial and then they got a second degree murder, which both of us agree it was first degree. Um, so the defense must have been doing something right.
I don't think so. I think it was her. I think it was her, and she
Well,
offered the best.
that's included. That's the
Right, in
defense.
her defense. But I
Yes.
do think if she had not testified, she might have
Hmm.
gotten convicted of first degree. But I think she helps herself when she testifies and she shows her emotion, even though she's lying through her teeth a lot of the time. And she gets impeached on cross examination and all that stuff. Even the jurors that they interviewed after for the second trial talked about that her credibility really took a hit on the cross.
Hmm.
Inconsistent statements. You told this person this, and the other big thing: everybody's lying but me.
Do you
That's
think?
the big thing with Betty.
Do you think
No, I
she
didn't tell that person
believes?
that. No, I didn't tell that person that.
Yeah.
Everybody's lying, including her kids. She's the only one telling the truth.
Well, that's typical of somebody with that kind of disorder. Do you
Yeah.
think she believes her lies? Because a lot of these people with this kind of disorder do believe their own lies.
Betty
They
was
tell
actually
themselves enough time.
78 when
Was
she
I thought
died.
she was 85.
No, she probably was going to be 85 at her next parole opportunity.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's
but
what I
she was
read. Yes.
78. Yeah.
Wow. She didn't make it very long in prison.
I mean, I think had she not been in prison, she probably would have lived a longer life for sure.
For sure.
Because apparently she had a fall, her son said.
I
Rhett,
know. And all kinds of broken ribs. I'm like, did
she,
somebody beat her
yeah.
up?
And that, no, they said it was ruled an accident. She tripped and
Mm.
fell and broke some ribs and then got sepsis and just didn't bounce back.
I think I heard that she had sepsis like earlier and then she had complications. Yeah. I mean, how'd she get sepsis? Like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. That's a
That's,
horrible thing. Yeah.
and it's usually not
No, it's not good.
recoverable.
No, it's not good. It's not good.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so she spent 36 years in prison because she was arrested the same day she turned herself in,
She turned herself
and she
in.
was
Yeah.
never, bonded out. She never got bail. So she has been behind bars since that day, November 5th, 1989. And anyway, so we were, for those of you who don't know anything about the case, I did not read the article. Should I read it?
Yeah. Well, okay. Why don't you read the article? Because, I
And
mean,
then we can end it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's take a look.
All right. Let me read the
Because
short
you were like
article.
not going to let me just get through my list without
Oh, so go
challenging me
ahead.
on
No,
it.
finish your list. Go ahead.
No, no, that was it. I'm just saying
Oh, okay.
we had a
Okay.
lot of firing exchange there because
Yeah, because I'm like, where's the evidence that Dan was harassing her?
I'm like I just made a list of what I liked. I wasn't doing that. Calm down.
No, but
I'll
no,
do
but
that
it's all
next
good. It's
time.
all good. Okay, here is the this brief article.
Yeah, let's see it.
Can we see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is from the Times
78.
of San
Yes.
Diego, and it was
Mhm.
written May 9th of this year. So,
Mhm.
convicted murderer Betty Broderick dead at 78. And this is her at one of her trials in 1991.
I think that was the first trial. She looks different there.
Yeah, the
She's
hair
a little less chubby. Yep.
different than
That must have been
the
the
other
89 or the 89
90, 1990
90
maybe.
trial.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so Elizabeth Betty Broderick, a former La Jolla socialite who became a true crime legend after killing her, I never heard her called a legend before, a true crime
I
legend
guess
after
so.
killing her ex husband and his younger new wife in 1989, has died at Chino Valley Medical Center, where she was transferred last month after becoming ill at the California Institution for Women in Chino. She was 78. Broderick had been serving a life sentence following her 1991 conviction for the deaths of her ex husband, prominent San Diego malpractice attorney Daniel T. Broderick III, and the former office assistant he later married, 28-year-old Linda Colquina Broderick. Betty and Daniel Broderick had divorced in 1985, oops, after 16 years of marriage and raising four children together. Well, it was mostly Betty raising the children.
I know, I was thinking the same thing.
He was at work.
He was not engaged.
He stayed away because she didn't
Well,
treat him well. Anyway,
he
their
stayed
youngest
away. We know
child,
that. Hmm.
yes, their youngest child, Rhett Broderick, told a San Diego Union Tribune his mother had tripped several weeks ago, broke some ribs, and developed an infection that became sepsis.
Mm.
She passed away from natural causes with three of her children at her bedside, and the other was FaceTiming, he told the newspaper.
Mm.
We were all able to come and be with her.
Mm.
The double homicide shocked San Diego's legal circles, where Daniel Broderick had served as president of the local bar association. In subsequent years, the case would be used by advocates as a prime example of the dilemma faced by wives whose husbands, quote unquote, dumped them for younger women. That is why she still has a lot of support.
Hmm.
The Betty Broderick case would also go on to be depicted in a two-part 1992 TV movie, a 2018 TV series, multiple books, and nearly 30 episodes of true crime TV shows and podcasts, including one from the Los Angeles Times in 2020 to
Mm.
2024. The 1992 movie starred
Meredith Baxter.
Meredith Baxter, and it
That came
was
up in my timeline.
she chewed the scenery so much playing Betty. It was fun.
Yeah.
According to too far. According to trial testimony, the New York native fired 5 shots from a 38 caliber revolver in the early morning hours of November 5th, 1989, three of which struck her ex-husband and his wife as they slept in their Marston Hills home. She had entered the home using a key taken weeks earlier from one of her daughters. The couple had married in April 1989, although Broderick suspected the two had been having an affair while she was still married to the attorney. During the trial, Broderick said she was driven to kill by her soon to be ex husband's abusive behavior during their divorce proceedings and bitter custody battle. Prosecutors maintained she was a cold and calculating killer who felt she was entitled, quote, to act out in vicious and extreme ways just because she was angry, unquote. Broderick became eligible for parole in 2010 and 2017, but was denied both times after the Board of Parole determined she showed no signs of remorse.
That's for sure.
I think that's the end of it.
Yeah.
All
Very
right.
good little summary.
So that's just
Yes,
a quick summary.
yes, and there were some really good articles locally here. There's a publication called the San Diego Reader that actually just finally went out of print, which is
Hmm.
amazing, only a year ago. And you used to be able to pick it up, anywhere, like coffee shops or whatever. And it's a really, really, really good publication. But you can get the article, and I need to find it if we're going to talk, if you still want to talk to me after this
Of
about
course.
this case.
No, look,
I'm kidding.
this
I'm
is
kidding.
all
I'm
good.
kidding.
Yeah, yeah.
And then also, I was trying to get the LA Times has a lot of volumes of well, they had the podcast, which I didn't listen to, but volumes of all the evidence and everything.
Hmm.
And I was trying to log in and get renew my subscription,
Hmm.
and I was having the hardest time renewing it. So I was going to have that ready. Obviously, it wouldn't have helped us tonight, but there's just a lot, especially here locally, that we can,
About, yeah.
yeah, resources here. Yeah,
Well,
if you're,
we
yeah,
can definitely, we didn't get to watch any of the closing
yeah,
or rebuttal argument, but we can definitely
mm-hmm.
do another. And, I get passionate.
I know.
But it's
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 okay.
all in good, healthy debate and conversation. There's no, no negativity about
No,
it.
and it's important because it's justice. I mean, it matters. It matters that
It
these things
matters.
are done right. Yes,
And
no,
I
for
think it
sure.
matters that two people were,
For
shot to death in
sure.
their bed. And,
For sure. And
somebody
I
breaks
totally
into your
agree.
house and kills you in your bed. I mean, what do you have
No.
to do to deserve that? I just think the whole notion that because of this divorce, because of his cheating, um, because she worked and helped put him through school, supported him through school. People do a lot worse things than cheat on their wives and gaslight them, and they don't deserve that. So
Right.
I think Dan and Linda um, lost their lives because Betty could not accept that her husband left her, and she was determined to show him that she was not going to allow him to live a happy life unless she was his wife.
And I really agree that I don't care how old she would have been, that she should not be left out on parole.
Yeah, I mean,
I
she
really
wasn't
agree with that.
remorseful, and she never expressed insight. As the parole boards want to hear you
Mm-hmm.
express
Mm-hmm.
some insight into your crime and
Right. I did
genuine
listen to
remorse.
a few minutes of one of her parole hearings, just a few minutes. I couldn't listen to the whole thing, but
Hmm.
I got that too. It was just like, oh man, yeah, she's still where she was. She's like she has. I think that's why I love her. I mean, it's just like I can't hate Betty Broderick. I will never
I
hate
don't hate
her.
her. I don't hate her,
I
but I
just
don't
find
respect her.
there's something well, I don't think I respect her either, but
No.
I find her endearing,
Mm-mm.
and
No, I
I
can't
feel
agree with that.
sad. I feel sad, and I feel sympathy toward that she never got the help she needed and never was able to move on, even
She
if it
would
was
not
in
agree that she
prison.
needed any help.
Even in prison, I'm no. What I'm saying is, even in prison, they get counseling in prison.
Yeah, but she never moved. It's like
Well, that's
Diane
what I'm
Downs.
saying, and that's sad. That's
Do you
sad.
remember yes, it is sad. Do you remember
Yeah.
Diane Downs who shot her kids?
I
So that one was I don't remember that one because that was in 83.
I gotta look up her face.
But she's similar in that she has stayed in the same state of mind she had in 1983 all these
Oh,
years.
right,
And
right.
every parole hearing, she is still claiming, even though her daughter testified that mom shot us, she's still claiming some
That
man
was a
tried to carjack
carjacker.
them and shot
Yes.
her kids and shot
Yeah.
her.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I mean, Betty is classic that their state of mind never evolves. They stay stuck in that time.
It's so sad. I mean, I don't know that much about Diane Downs, but I mean, when somebody kills a child or shoots her child, I have even
Three of them.
less.
She shot all three
Yes,
of them.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
I have even less when it's against any crime against a child. I don't care what it is, and I know, and I feel the same way about Betty's phone calls to her
Oh,
children. I mean, I
but
feel
that's
the
where she
same way. I
loses
don't
me.
get me wrong, but yeah, I don't know. There's just something. I just
She's
found the
charismatic.
trial
I get that.
interesting.
I get
Well,
that.
maybe I found the trial quaint. I don't know. There was just something about it that I found very entertaining to watch.
Mistrial fodder all over the place.
Oh my gosh! I mean, it was an old trial. It's 34 years. That this 34 years old. The 91 trial. So I just thought it was interesting to see all of the changes
Yeah,
just in 35 years that we have in trials today and live streaming and all that. So, and just even if they're not live streamed, the way that things are presented, I think they got by with a lot in that courtroom. And today it wouldn't
I
have been
agree.
anything
I
like
agree
that.
about the
Yeah.
mannequins for
Oh my
sure.
gosh, so much. It was just
That
like,
is
are you
so
kidding me?
prejudicial. That's the word I was looking
That's the
for.
word.
That was
Yes.
very prejudicial to
Oh
leave
my
those mannequins there
gosh.
like that for so long.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree totally. That was not cool.
Hi, True Crime Wifey. So
Yes,
good to see you guys.
hello. Thanks for dropping in.
Hmm.
We're closing down now because we've been, at
Blabbing.
each other's throat about Betty Broderick
She's
for
like,
two
show me
hours
the
now.
evidence. I'm like, I didn't know that was the
I'm like,
assignment for
where's the evidence?
tonight.
Where is it? Because it's just classic, like a state of where the media narrative has overtaken the actual evidence that was
Hmm.
presented at her trial.
I
You know
know,
what
and
I
I'm
mean?
sorry to disappoint you that I found her somewhat charming. I'm like, I didn't mean to. It's just the way I feel, and I'm surprised I feel that way, to be honest.
No,
And
but a
Top
lot of
Cat
people
is
do.
asking, was Betty unhinged on the stand? Not really. I mean, it depends on how you describe are defining unhinged. She was
She was not
Betty,
unhinged. What I
right?
think I was saying, Top Cat, before that, I believe her testimony is what helped her to
Yeah.
not be convicted of first degree murder. So I do think, most of the time they tell defendants, especially guilty ones, because she wasn't denying that she shot them.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
she was
She
basically,
confessed.
yes, she turned herself in. But I think her showing her emotion to the jury, her talking about her life with Dan and when she first
Mm-hmm.
found out about Linda Kokina, I think when she tells her story, you do get pulled in. You do feel for her to
Mm-hmm.
some extent. But then, as the jury, the members that were interviewed after the conviction said, she got her credibility took major hits on cross because she was caught in inconsistencies and yada yada. So she wasn't unhinged. She came across well. She said what she wanted to say. And she described her memory of what happened when she walked into the bedroom.
Well, and my impression of Betty, what I started out saying, which I'm sure Nadine really appreciated, was that I mean Betty was exactly who she is. She was authentic to herself on the stand, and I think that's what I think. At least for myself, I can't speak for other people, but I think people find somewhat endearing about her, even though she was
Endearing
confessing.
is the right
She's
word.
con- she's confessing to murder, right? But
But
she's telling you why, and so it's like, well, about that, she's being honest.
for
I
those
mean,
who didn't aren't familiar with this case, the first thing I would recommend is watching the opening statements. the state and the defense. But during the opening statement, the prosecutor plays excerpts of Betty's phone calls with her 11-year-old son, and maybe with Rhett too. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But she had two young sons who were underage at the time of the killings. The two older girls were grown. Um, and the
And that's
conversation,
unhinged. That was unhinged. Like
way
Betty,
unhinged.
that was Betty
Unhinged
being
isn't even
unhinged.
doesn't
Yeah.
even begin to
Right.
describe
Right.
what the way she was talking to her child on the phone and the
Right.
things she was telling him to do.
Mm-hmm.
It made him go cut chunks of his hair out in the bathroom, saying he was trying to get the pain out of his head that his mother put in his head. Okay, no 11-year-old should be going through that. Okay, and this is what Betty did to her children. So that's where she loses me. So I recommend folks start there. Start with the opening statements, when they discuss what evidence is going to be presented, and listen to those calls. It's very hard to hear the calls of her talking to Rhett and to Danny, and the foul language she's using, and there's no excuse for that. That's all I can say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No matter how someone has hurt you, there's no excuse for you doing that to your children.
Yeah, she was cray cray. I mean, by then she
Yes.
was just she had lost it. She clearly had lost it, and that's
Yeah,
not
I don't know
okay.
that she's endearing. I would say charismatic.
Well, she's endearing to
You
me.
find her endearing. I
Yeah.
I find her charismatic.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel any sympathy feelings for her after hearing those calls with Rhett and with
Mm-hmm.
Danny. I That's where Betty loses my respect and
Sure.
my sympathy. It's just
Mm-hmm.
gone.
I
I
don't think
mean,
I
I
have
I shed some
sympathy.
tears listening to that call with Danny.
Oh, yeah.
What
I don't
she's
think I
doing to
have
that child.
sympathy toward her. I don't think I have sympathy toward her. I just think, like I said in the beginning, if you're gonna like, she's very true to herself. She's like, I just, I think
Yeah,
it's
she is
kind of,
true to herself. I agree
yeah,
with
I
you.
kind of think it's cowardly of these people who, go out and do these crimes and then, oh,
Try to get
well,
away with it.
yeah, yeah. At least she's like,
Well,
hey,
she was trying to get away with it too. She was just trying to
mm,
justify it,
she's gonna
and
get trying
say,
to get the minimum sentence. That's all. I don't think she's trying
yeah,
to get away with.
manslaughter. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I
And
think she
even
was asking
manslaughter
for
of two
manslaughter.
separate people would have given her at least 50 years, and she would be gone because she only made it 34 years.
Right.
So,
But she had parole. She could have been paroled.
ah,
And if she had pretended that she had some remorse and insight, she may have gotten parole.
but she didn't even do that.
But she
That's
couldn't
what I'm
even do
saying.
that.
That's why I find it endearing. It's like,
Yeah.
at least
She
she
wasn't
didn't
doing it.
get, yes. And it's these people who get out that freak me out. They're more scary than, I don't think she should have gotten out. I don't think she should have gotten
Right.
parole. So, no, she's an interesting character. That's all I can say. But it was really fun. It was really neat to see a trial 35 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And thank you again for joining me because, again, it was just going to be me yakking. So I'm grateful that I had somebody to, you know,
Ah, well,
yeah,
thanks.
discuss it with. And thanks so
Yeah,
much for spending the time you did this week watching, catching up on stuff, and joining. And I hope we can chat about more stuff
for sure. For sure.
together.
I've gotten, and thank you again for inviting me and for reintroducing me to this because I'm going to pay more attention and try to get through the whole trial. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
it's
it's
an
just really
interesting one.
interesting. It's
Hmm.
really interesting. It's an interesting social debate, and it's interesting that you see. I didn't know there was all this conflict going on where people are actually defending what she did, which I don't think
Yeah,
I
read
would
the
ever
comments
do.
on, check them out.
No, I
And
won't.
even
I don't need to
articles
do
like
that.
the People article about it since she
uh,
passed and
oh
her death
man.
was ruled an accident. There was another thrash of articles that came out, and when you read the comments, you see it. You see
Mm-hmm.
both, back and forth. Oh,
Yeah.
they deserved it. Oh, da, da, da.
Mm.
And then people are like, "Are
Mm-mm-mm.
you crazy? Did you hear what she did to her kids?"
Mm.
And blah blah
Yeah.
blah.
Right.
So
Right.
that's going on for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
may she rest in peace. I don't think she ever regretted it. I think she felt they deserved it, and I think she felt that way till she died.
Yeah. I think she did
Mhm.
too. I think she did too. Yeah. Check
Right.
it out on the replay.
Yes. We you can let us know if you think we were really at each other's throats. I don't
I'm like, oh my God, I'm not prepared enough for this. Give me the evidence. I'm like, well, okay.
She said, "Yep, there are free Betty people. It's so weird. She was vindictive." Exactly.
Very.
That's what I'm saying, true crime wifey, that the evidence that came out of the trial clearly shows she was the harasser. She was the one keeping this conflict and wouldn't leave them alone. And she told the housekeeper that. I know Dan and Linda just want to be left alone, but it's not going to happen.
Okay, let me ask you a question because
Hmm.
this occurred to me. Because I don't have the impression that she, like, I'd still, like I said, I don't think Dan, I think Dan had played a role in this too. But
Hmm.
in terms of going back and forth with her and being vindictive, I don't think Dan was innocent of that. But,
Hmm.
and that's my impression at this point. Um, how long do you think Dan and Linda would have been married before he found somebody else?
Or she did. Remember, he was much older.
He
So
had the
I
money.
think, well, that's true. The money does change things.
Yeah, this is
I
Southern
don't
California, my dear.
I
Yes.
don't think it's hard to say. The relationship probably wouldn't have lasted either, and they probably would have had kids because they were trying. And that's something Betty did not want. She was telling her sons, "Your dad's going to forget all about you if he starts having kids with Linda."
Mm-hmm.
Or the office cunt, as she called her all the time.
She's,
um,
yeah,
she that's what she called her to her
yeah,
sons,
yeah.
and wanted and was telling them to call her that. And so I think, yeah, maybe 10 years,
10
maybe.
years.
There was a big age difference, and if they ended up having kids, that might have dragged it out. And he had money, so but would it have lasted forever? Would they still be married to this day? Probably not.
Mm-mm. I don't think so
Probably
either.
not. So, but she didn't give it a chance. She could have gone on and found herself another millionaire. Betty was a beautiful woman.
Mm-hmm.
She could have, but
Smart.
she
Everyone said she was super
refused.
smart. Yep.
She was smart. She was great. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
says, aside from this,
Aside from murdering.
she was, no, aside from the conflict with Dan and
Yeah,
hating
yeah.
Dan,
Mm-hmm.
even before the murder, aside from that, Betty was a great person, fun to be around, charismatic, all that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, and her kids, somebody asked earlier if her children kept in touch with her. They did,
A hundred
but
percent.
they were split on who would support her at the parole hearings and who would not. Two of them wanted her to get parole, and two did not
Mm-hmm.
think that she should. So,
And
but
the
they
and
did
they
stay in touch with their mom.
and they had a relationship even when they were testifying against her on the stand. They were like, I have a normal relationship with my mom. She's still my mom. I love her. So there
Yes.
wasn't even a time when her children abandoned
Except
her.
for the murder stuff. She was a cat's right dog.
Right. Exactly.
But you know what we're saying. She
Mm-hmm.
there were different sides to her. And this, Dan leaving her just brought out the worst side of her.
Mm-hmm.
The
And
absolute
you
worst.
have to remember, Betty was a Catholic wife, uh, getting pregnant all the time, supporting, not believing in divorce, that type of thing. So that was the culture that she was from, as far as having identity outside of Dan. So that's all well and good now, but she was a little bit more old fashioned, right?
Yeah, and she told someone, that little fucker was mine and he's gonna stay mine. She was a narcissist. The
Well,
psychiatrist testified he diagnosed her narcissistic personality and histrionic
right.
personality disorders.
I
So,
would think that even that was, I would think that her diagnosis might have been even more than that. Like, wouldn't you have to be
probably
kind of psychotic?
borderline
Yeah,
personality. Well, he didn't go that
something.
far, but she was definitely not normal. And she told, oh, this is one more thing, and then we're gonna go. It's over 2 hours now. We can talk about this forever. But the therapist that she was seeing, who felt her threats were serious enough to actually contact Dan about it, right? The therapist said, Betty told her, I'm not coming back to see you. you're too good. You make me forget how much I hate Dan and
Oh, yeah,
Linda.
that's right. I remember that. Yes.
Okay? You make
Yes.
me forget how much I hate Dan and
She
Linda. I'm
wanted to
not
hang
coming
on.
back.
The
She
anger
did
fueled
not
her.
want
Yes.
to move on.
No, the anger fueled her. That
And she
fueled
did
her.
not want
No.
to let it go.
Right, because it was
So
her
how can you
fuel.
help someone like that? You were talking earlier about she didn't get
Hmm.
the help that she needed. How can you help someone like that? She didn't want to move on.
Hmm.
She was hell bent on digging in and punishing him for having the audacity to leave her.
Well, maybe you couldn't help her, but I think more could have been done. I think more would have been done today, is all
She
I'm
worked
saying.
Top Cat. She worked while he was in medical school. When they first got married, he was in his second year of medical school. He graduated after their marriage and then decided he wanted to go to law school so that he could become a medical malpractice attorney and not have to consult doctors because he is a doctor. And so she supported him in that. And then he went to law school. She worked, having all the kids, she worked as a babysitter so that she could bring her kids with her.
And
And
even when he was a lawyer in San Diego, his first law firm job, she was still working as a hostess in like a chain restaurant.
yes,
Yeah,
or
I
a
mean, she
hotel or
was a hard
something.
with
Yeah,
4 children.
she
She would
worked.
work in the middle of the night. Like she wasn't just,
She
she
did.
she did
She
her part.
worked
She
and she
did.
supported him
She did.
as he, went to law school and then he
Mhm.
became very successful and she
Mhm.
felt cheated as, to lose Mrs. Dan Broderick status.
Yeah, as soon as he gets successful, it's like, oh, I've met this other woman. Well, maybe there were other reasons, as Nadine has pointed out, but it's like still, that's pretty.
The
I'd be
state of
pretty
the
bitter
marriage
too.
was ripe for an affair. Let's just put it that way. Because
I think all marriages are right for a fair. Like
no, but
that,
this
you
one
could
was
say
extra fertile because
that.
if you have a man that's emasculated at home, he's much more likely to meet somebody else who pulls him in, you know?
Hmm.
So Betty was emasculating, and people testified to that, people who knew them
Hmm.
before.
Yeah.
So I think that situation brought it about, and we need to end this stream. Come back next time for our next stream. We will
Yes, we
continue the
have to continue. We can't
conversation.
do it all tonight because nobody will
No,
come back.
no. All right, everybody. So thanks for coming.
Yeah, nice to
And
see you
thanks
all in
again,
the
Dawn.
chat. Of
Yeah, and
course.
Judy.
Thank
I don't know
you.
if she's still here, but thank you, Judy, for tuning in.
Judy, I think we lost Judy and Alma.
Oh,
So,
really? So, yeah.
oh,
All
okay.
right,
Well,
everybody.
we'll
Have a
see
good
you all
weekend.
soon, and we'll see you Sunday. I'll be on with Judy to talk about
Yes,
the
I'll be
Viviette
there.
case. Yes, I
Yes,
have a lot.
because I want to know where she is.
Where? Who is? Oh, me too. Everyone
Yeah.
does. Yes, we want to
Yeah.
find Maya for sure.
Maya, where is she? I
Right,
mean, I hope that she'll be found, stumbled upon, but
right. I don't
the
think
no
Larry's going to
body
tell anybody.
cases, there are a few no body cases where it's
Hmm.
clear that they're guilty. And I think this is one of them. Even though they don't have a body, no
Yeah, oh,
body,
it's very clear. Yeah,
it's
very
very
much
clear
evidence.
that
Yeah.
he's guilty. There's lots of
Hmm.
evidence, and I think he's going
Hmm.
to get convicted.
Yeah, I think he will too. And I don't
Hmm.
think he's ever going to reveal what he did to her. And that's all the family wants. They don't. I mean,
No,
even
he won't.
even Mary Chris is like, we don't even care about this trial. Of course, we care about the trial. We're going to go through the trial and all that, but we want to know where she is. We want to bring her home.
Yeah.
So sad.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Have a great weekend. Thanks for coming. And thank you, Dawn, again.
See you all. Have a good night. Bye for now.
Bye.